going to strive to give different service or a different level of service because someone's being loud. I think if that becomes your goal, then you're really just doing PR and not customer service. So I actually love the dialogue. I love when someone says, hey, I dislike this about your company. Fine, let's talk about it. Let's find out more and see if there's something we can do about it. There are times where you can't. There's, ultimately, I'm sure everybody would love their cable services to be free. I'm not going to be able to accommodate, and I apologize. But at the same time, we can start talking about what makes up the cost in cable. Why is it this way? It's a whole new transparent way of doing things, and companies have to learn that aspect of it.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to bring up, in which you mentioned sort of in a sentence there, was customer service versus PR. With social media, we're seeing a real convergence of the two in some ways because this is a public forum, and so it is effectively public relations when you have customer service conducted in a public forum like that. Actually, I spoke to some people after the whole Kevin Smith debacle and was asking them whether representatives who run their company's Twitter accounts, does your PR department or your customer service department do that? How much dialogue is there in between the two, and how much red tape does that create? Maybe Jeremiah, because you watch this space so closely, this might be something you might want to riff on. The PR, customer service, how much should they be stepping on each other's toes?
Well, I think they should actually be wearing the same shoe. There really isn't a difference between customer support and service and PR. What happens in the support and service arena is a PR issue. If you take a look at the Whirlpool example, when Deuce called up and she couldn't get service and she complained and they couldn't help her. And she said, I'm on Twitter, does that matter? No, it didn't matter. And then she said, I have over 1 million followers, does that matter? They said, no, it doesn't matter. And then she tweeted and requested a boycott and used colorful language. And it seems to be a trend. But the point is, what happened in support is now a PR issue. There isn't a difference. And one of the things that it's become very clear is customers don't care what department you're in, they just want their problem fixed. So I think that comes to the root of it. Support and PR, maybe they should be the exact same department. Maybe support should report to marketing, or maybe marketing should report to support.
I'll ask this one to Toby, because you've been deceptively or suspiciously quiet here. Is when it comes to conducting customer support in a public forum, is there anybody from any other arms of the company, specifically public relations, who's sometimes like keeping an eye on you and being like, actually you can't say that. I know you're trying to help the customer, but does that pose an issue at all?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I was in a session earlier, the one about don't get sued, and it was all this legal implications around the use of user-generated content, social media, and that sort of thing. And I think part of it is some of it's philosophical, it's very cultural. At Microsoft, we have, it's probably not a surprise here, have gone through a number of years of customer satisfaction issues, and so as a company, we've invested in the way in which we listen to our customers. And so the attitude that we have right now is to be as transparent as possible. And sometimes transparency doesn't always equal say yes to customer. Transparency is just telling them this is the policy, the way in which we're doing it, and let's figure out a way to work within those boundaries. So to answer your specific question, no, there's no oversight in terms of how we engage in customer support dialogue in a public domain, but there certainly is a conversation to be had when you launch these. We launched our @Microsoft Helps Twitter account when Windows 7 was launched. The marketing team very aware of what we're doing. Here are our core principles, marketing. We are going to be transparent. We're going to get the customer healthy, etc. That is our main goal. They gave us their principles in terms of things that we needed to watch out for. And as long as you kind of have that partnership and you have that social CRM type of attitude, you can create a harmonious working relationship with the different organizations.
Okay, so I think I want to hear from each one of you on this. What happens if you get Kevin Smithed? Like, what happens when something happens involving one of your products where or services where you've got someone with a huge Twitter following, a big mouth, and lots of, I think with Kevin Smith, it wasn't just his big Twitter following, it was the fact that he's got like fanboys. And so, I think it was sort of the perfect storm there, that very few celebrities on Twitter even could replicate. What would happen if, if someone was complaining about, for example, poor Comcast service that happened, that turned out to be at the real Shaq or something like that? I personally would love to see Shaq complain about his cable service on Twitter.
No, he's our spokesperson, so hopefully not. But anyway, we've had it happen. I think that, you're going to have some people who are going to be very loud about it. But I will tell you, probably the biggest hit to the Comcast brand had 2 videos on YouTube. And the one still shows pretty high in Google search. So ultimately, it doesn't take someone with millions of followers to do something about your brand. So, you treat them right, you try to help out, and you listen to what they say. The other thing you have to learn to do is to be a little more transparent in your response to others. Here's what's going on, and you get it out there, and you help that person if you can. If it's something you can't help with, be honest about it and why, and where that difference is. We had an incident about a year ago, and it was during the Super Bowl, a little incident involving pornography on the Super Bowl. What I found during that incident was quite interesting. We were talking about it the moment it happened. We were talking about it locally, our local PR person was doing it. We were talking about it on Twitter. And what we found happened is the story got boring because we were telling everybody everything we knew. And so I think there's ways that you can actually leverage this space to be open, to be transparent, and have it be a win for the organization. So that's my thoughts.
I would just echo that. I think a lot of it has to do with just responsiveness. If you've got the policy and the processes that allow you to be responsive, that empower people on the front lines to solve issues, I don't know what would happen in that particular case if Kevin was doing that around a particular Windows product. What I am confident is that the listening systems that we've put in place empower Microsoft employees to act quickly. I think where we get positive PR and positive kudos is, maybe there wasn't a legitimate problem in the first place, but look how quickly they responded. That happened with the Windows 7 launch. We had some issues related to one of the SKUs, our Home Premium upgrade, with thousands of conversations in our Microsoft support forums, and we came out very quickly with a patch, with content that solved that issue, and people felt as if, okay, wow, they listened, they responded, issue was over in a week.
That's okay. But anyway, so, I think that we have had situations arise that are very controversial, and there was something that kind of went viral right around the holidays about one of our products being racist, basically. And so the key to that situation was taking, responding very, very quickly in a really genuine manner and talking about, very matter-of-factly, how the technology works and what the limitations may be and what we're doing to look into it. So that was one that was more like along the lines of a Kevin situation. But we had more mundane ones, I think, in support, more frequently, like around the Win 7 release. Customers will want all of their products that they have owned for however many years to keep working, and so they want to know why a driver was not created for their 7 or 8-year-old product. And so we actually just explained what it takes to create a driver. It's actually not a small undertaking. And so again, maybe boring information, but it's putting out there, the facts around, we do run a business and we do have to charge for our products like you have to charge for customers. So, I think just letting customers know what's going on and telling them what you're trying to do to help them with whatever the issue is key.